How's everybody doing? I know it's been a while since I've uploaded. I had been dealing with something kind of more important. I'm gonna try to get back to a more regular uploading schedule. So starting with this video, it's a little bit different because it's not guitar related, but it is music related. So branching into the genre of rap for a moment. So this video is going to be my top 3 favorite rappers of all time. I've done already a while back my top 3 guitarists, which I may want to revise pretty soon here, but now I'm doing my top 3 favorite rappers of all time. So starting the list with number 3, I'm going to put Biggie Smalls. Basically everything that he did seemed to have a really nice flow to it. He had a lot of really good lines, a lot of really good storytelling. He generally had kind of a slow but like satisfying smooth flow and delivery. Just basically, I always found his songs to be enjoyable to listen to because of their tone. There's sort of this like, you know, smooth flow, pretty threatening, typically like smooth, a little bit funky beats. Like really liked his instrumentation on a lot of his beats. And, you know, in my mind, considering, you know, I'm not like, I mean, I'm old, but I'm not super old, so he is kind of a classic rapper to me. All right, so moving on to number 2 on this list, I'm going to say the number 2 favorite rapper of all time to me is Eminem. Now, he basically has an extremely wide discography. He's been busy, you know, in the last few years, putting out some of the best rap albums as far as lyricism of all time in history. He's developed a lot of different flows. He can also sort of mimic a lot of different flows and sort of play around with people while dissing them just by sort of mocking them. And his technical ability, as far as his technical ability to physically rap as well as his lyricism, is really hard to surpass. So a lot of his recent stuff has been really impressive to me. Music to be Murdered by, you know, both parts. That was really satisfying for me to listen to. And of course his more, you know, older albums, like through the earlier 2000s where he was being fully produced by Dre, those are some of the most satisfying beats to listen to. Now there's one knock that I could think of against him, which is the actual tone of his voice. For the longest time I couldn't even listen to because it was just, I found it so grating and unpleasant. I'm talking about years ago I couldn't listen to. I mean, I've been listening to him for a while. But once you get past that, sort of the harsh vocal tone, and you can actually appreciate the skill that he has, I think he deserves to be in my number 2 favorite spot. And then of course, finally, my number 1 favorite rapper of all time is going to be, may be a surprise to some people, but if there's anybody that knows anything about rap, this would not be a surprise to them. I'm gonna say my number 1 favorite rapper of all time is Lloyd Banks. So he, of course, started to gain notoriety with G-Unit. He was probably the most lyrical person in G-Unit, and had a couple of solo albums like The Hunger for More and stuff like that. And that, for the time, was, you know, pushing really good lyricism, but in that context, he probably didn't have a full chance to grow as he could have otherwise, although, you know, still all really good music. So, however, in the past, like probably 5 or 6 years, he has been doing like non-stop, you know, mixtapes every once in a while of just his own independent stuff, and it's gotten kind of like underground in the sense that I don't think he really does much promo for it, although like if you follow his Twitter and stuff like that, you know, you could see that. But you know, he posts on YouTube these songs from series and songs from mixtapes and stuff, so he hasn't really stopped. In fact, in the past few years he has increased his skill level quite a bit, and it's pretty clear that he has really sort of like honed that edge of lyricism that he always had, but he's now got like really sharp with it. And as well as the fact that when he was with G Unit and his other solo albums and stuff back in the day, it was more like typical like braggadocio type rap lyrics, and which is great. And he always had, in addition to that, like a really sort of threatening side, a lot of like gun bars and, you know, things that just are like really satisfying and delivered really smoothly, probably more than anybody else. But lately, he still has some of those like classic braggadocio elements, but he still has a lot of the gun bars, and he still has a lot of really threatening lines, but he delivers them now in this most smooth context, the most smooth ways to have the most threatening hooks and things that are just like kind of like almost seems effortless as he's rapping, you know, but it's really, really hard lines. It's like probably the most satisfying music that I've listened to in the rap genre has been some of Lloyd Banks' last few albums and mixtapes. So while it's hard to say that any one person could really technically be more lyrical than Eminem, who I put in the #2 spot, just the nature of how Lloyd Banks writes his lines, to me, is just the most satisfying thing, the way that they land. Like the way that those punches land and like the steady sort of smooth flow about it. It's almost like a Biggie-esque inspired flow, but he has like taken that to a much higher level. Obviously, you know, blessed with the time to develop his skill to that level. And I think also both New York guys, so that kind of makes sense. But it's just the most satisfying punchlines in rap that I've ever heard has been coming from Lloyd Banks in the past few years. And there's really nothing frantic about it. It's this nice, you know, smooth, like slow to moderate pace, like really gritty. Like if you listen to The Course of the Inevitable, which is the album that he did about a year ago, it's like this really dark, gritty type of sensation throughout the whole album. And he's mixing like a couple of lines showing that he has, you know, attained certain heights in his career and in his life, and, you know, certain luxuries. So it's a little bit of that element, but it's also a lot of like, it's mainly a lot of like wisdom, I think, talking about like, you know, really good punchlines and analogies, but based on lessons that he's learned, you know, people that you'd think would be friends crossing you and all types of stuff like that. If anybody hasn't listened to The Course of the Inevitable, the first one, I highly recommend to check it out. When I listened to it the first time, I definitely didn't appreciate it. I had to listen to it a few times, and then it's one of those albums that I put on like for several weeks, like over and over and over, just trying to catch all the bars. And he just now, like in the past week that I'm recording this, put out The Course of the Inevitable 2. So I'm starting to dissect that, you know, as we speak. But it's just one of those things where it takes a while to appreciate the work because it's so deep. But it doesn't take that long to listen to it and appreciate the smooth delivery of these real threatening sounding hooks and everything like that. It's just the most perfect, satisfying type of rap that I like. So that's why I put Lloyd Banks as my #1 favorite rapper of all time. If you like this video, don't forget to share it and subscribe, turn on notifications, and I will see you guys next time.